Good evening. Tonight we confront a story that is as disturbing as it is revealing, a story that forces us to question the values held by those in power. A recently leaked audio recording has surfaced, capturing former President Donald Trump making deeply troubling comments. In this tape, Trump downplays the gravity of a case involving a female teacher who abused a 14-year-old boy, brushing aside the seriousness of the crime with unsettling ease. He goes so far as to suggest that the young boy may have been the one to initiate the encounter, and even claims that such an experience could serve as a confidence booster for the victim. These words are not just careless, they are profoundly damaging. This isn't just a flippant remark tossed off in private, it's a dangerous normalization of abuse, coming from someone who once held the highest office in the land. When a leader speaks this way, it sends a message that echoes far beyond the walls of any room. When those in power frame statutory rape as a rite of passage or minimize its impact, it erodes our collective understanding of harm, responsibility, and justice. It blurs the lines between right and wrong, and undermines the very protections meant to keep children safe. For survivors, the damage is not theoretical. It is real, lasting, and often invisible to the outside world. Casual dismissal of their trauma only deepens the wounds, making it harder for them to seek help or be believed. And let's be clear, this isn't just a random person at a bus stop. These are the words of a man with immense influence, whose statements have the power to shape public perception, policy, and even the course of national conversations. This mindset, excusing the powerful, blaming the vulnerable, creates fertile ground for much larger, darker stories to unfold. It's the same pattern that allowed the Jeffrey Epstein saga to fester in the shadows for years. The attitudes revealed in that tape are not isolated. They are the very soil in which scandals like Epstein's take root and thrive, reminding us that the words of the powerful can have consequences that ripple through society for generations. Now let's turn to the latest revelations from the Jeffrey Epstein files. These documents, recently unsealed after years of legal battles, are sending shockwaves through the corridors of power and influence. They offer a rare, unfiltered glimpse into the hidden world that Epstein inhabited. A world where secrets, privilege, and connections intersected in ways most of us can barely imagine. Instead of a simple list of names, we get a chaotic web, over 5,000 references to Trump, his Mar-a-Lago club, and his family. The sheer volume of these mentions paints a picture of deep entanglement, not just casual acquaintance. It's a sprawling network, with each connection hinting at stories and relationships that have yet to be fully understood. This isn't a passing mention, it's a glaring sign of proximity to one of the most notorious sex traffickers in modern history. The repeated appearance of these names in the files suggests a level of familiarity and access that goes far beyond what most people would consider normal. While being named doesn't prove guilt, these are legal documents from a child sex trafficking case, not a social directory. Every reference, every flight log, every calendar entry is a piece of evidence in a much larger puzzle, one that investigators and the public are still trying to piece together. The files detail flights, visits, and a social calendar that intertwine politics, finance, and celebrity with Epstein's crimes. These weren't isolated incidents, they were part of a pattern, a lifestyle that blurred the lines between legitimate business, high society, and criminal activity. Epstein wasn't a pariah. He was a fixture among the powerful, protected by their presence. He moved effortlessly through elite circles, attending exclusive events and forging relationships with people who shaped policy, finance, and culture. His access was not just tolerated, it was often welcomed. The very people who could have distanced themselves instead provided him with legitimacy, making it even harder for authorities to intervene. His network's strength came from these connections, making him both dangerous and difficult to prosecute. The more intertwined he became with the elite, the more insulated he was from scrutiny and consequences. The unsealing of these files peels back the layers of protection, exposing a system that enabled and shielded him for decades. It's a rare moment of transparency in a world built on secrecy and silence. This is not just about one man, but about a culture that allowed him to operate in plain sight, a culture where influence and power could be used to hide the darkest of secrets, and where accountability was often just out of reach. The sheer number of Trump mentions is alarming, but the details about his associates are even more so. Howard Lutnick, a Trump cabinet member, discussed a family vacation to Epstein's Island years after Epstein's conviction. Brett Ratner, who made a Melania Trump documentary, is photographed with Epstein. Brad Karp, head of a law firm that aided Trump, had friendly interactions with Epstein. These aren't distant connections, they're Trump's inner circle. Even Steve Bannon corresponded with Epstein, and recently attended a wedding with Trump. The lines between socializing and complicity are blurred, if not erased. The defense that they didn't know grows weaker with every revelation. Epstein's crimes were public record, yet these associations continued. This points to a disturbing tolerance, if not outright complicity, in a culture of exploitation at the highest levels. As these revelations surface, a cynical media strategy emerges, one designed not to clarify but to confuse the public and minimize the damage. Instead of seeking truth, the focus shifts to muddying the waters, making it harder for anyone to distinguish fact from spin. The result is a fog of uncertainty, where accountability becomes elusive and outrage is dulled by endless debate. Trump's attorney claims, "It's not a crime to party with Mr. Epstein." This statement, delivered with calculated nonchalance, is meant to deflect and distract, reducing serious allegations to the level of casual socializing. Technically true, but deeply unsettling. The legal line may not have been crossed, but the moral one certainly has. This reframes potential complicity as innocent socializing, lowering the bar for acceptable behavior. It sends a message that proximity to power excuses questionable choices, and that the company you keep is irrelevant if you have the right connections. Media figures amplify this narrative, suggesting Epstein's crimes were not as bad because the victims were older teens. By focusing on technicalities, they downplay the gravity of the abuse and shift blame away from those involved. This creates a grotesque sliding scale of evil, making some abuse seem more palatable. The public is left to wonder where the line is, and who gets to decide. Meanwhile, grifters like Nick Fuentes seize the moment, selling Epstein-themed merchandise and even claiming 14 is an age of sexual maturity. This isn't just opportunism, it's a deliberate attempt to normalize the unthinkable and profit from outrage. This is narrative spin at its worst. Erasing the crime, recasting victims as willing participants, and rewriting history in real time. The truth becomes just another version of events, up for debate. It's a coordinated effort to muddy the waters until the public gives up on the truth. The constant barrage of conflicting stories and shifting blame wears people down, making it easier for the powerful to escape scrutiny. The goal is clear: protect the powerful by blurring the lines between right and wrong, and ensure that accountability remains just out of reach. Amid this network of powerful men, only Ghislaine Maxwell has faced real legal consequences. Her conviction feels incomplete, like catching the getaway driver, but letting the robbers go free. Maxwell was central, but she wasn't the whole operation. The client base was powerful men. The fact that only she has been prosecuted suggests a system designed to protect the rest. This creates a two-tiered justice system, one for the well-connected, one for everyone else. Maxwell's conviction is a convenient illusion of accountability, while the real network remains untouched. Until we see indictments of the men who benefited from Epstein's crimes, justice remains a facade. The public deserves more than a token sacrifice. The lack of further prosecutions hasn't gone unnoticed. Congressman Ro Khanna calls for investigations into everyone who visited Epstein's Island, a basic, necessary step. Epstein's Island was a criminal hub, not a vacation spot. If an ordinary person visited a known trafficking site, they'd be investigated immediately. Why should the powerful be exempt? Investigations don't presume guilt, they gather facts. Questions must be asked. Why were you there? What did you see? Who else was present? Refusing to investigate is a dereliction of duty, prioritizing the comfort of the powerful over justice for victims. Khanna's call is a clear, moral path forward. Without real investigations, claims of justice are hollow and public trust erodes further. The Department of Justice's handling of Epstein has been questionable under multiple administrations. During Trump's era, the lack of investigation into his associates was glaring, raising suspicions of political protection. The current legal defense focuses on shaping public perception, not seeking truth. The original sweetheart deal for Epstein, orchestrated by Alexander Acosta, set the tone for years of justice denied. That deal shut down a federal investigation that could have exposed the network much earlier. This history of deference to the powerful is the backdrop for everything that's followed. The DOJ's integrity is on the line. Can it investigate the powerful without fear or favor? The Epstein case is the ultimate test of equal justice, and failure would be a devastating betrayal. So, where does this leave us? With a leaked tape, a trove of damning documents, and a justice system that shields the powerful, This isn't just about one monster, it's about the networks that let monsters thrive. These networks create a class of untouchables, immune to consequences. When a trafficking ring operates for decades at the highest levels, it's a warning sign we can't ignore. Only a fearless, top-to-bottom investigation will suffice. One that follows the evidence, no matter how high it leads. Justice means treating every billionaire client like any other criminal. It's not about revenge, but about equality under the law. The unsealing of these files must be the start of real accountability. If we let this moment pass, we fail the victims and ourselves. Good night.